Can you please start with your name, where the house was, what was going on that made you want to sell the property?
My name's Lisa. The house was in Parkville, Missouri. It's owned by my parents, who both went into a senior living facility. So it was sitting empty. We're having to go check on it, and we live over an hour away. It was just sitting empty.
Before we found one another, what was the most stressful part about the house situation in general for you?
Just knowing that it was sitting there empty. Even we've had these storms going through. It did get hail damage that we had to file claims on. And so we were having to take care of that house. At the same time, we're trying to take care of our own house. I think just having it sitting there and knowing it needed to be sold. It had been a family home for 40, 50 years. Actually, probably a little bit more than that. It was a childhood home for me. And so it needed updates and elderly people living there, and they didn't keep it up either. It had a lot of improvements that needed to be made.
If you can think back to the time from when it started to be vacant until the time that we ended up connecting with one another, how is that making you feel on a just day-to-day basis, being in the back of your mind all that time?
Very stressed. My husband and I, it was pretty overwhelming. It sat empty through the winter, so we were constantly worried about freezing pipes. What do we need to do there? And then cleaning the driveway and hiring a lawn service to keep the lawn mowed, because it was a fairly large lot. Even if it wasn't large, it's just something extra that we had to put on our plate to just keep up every day with, so that it looked lived in, and it was very overwhelming.
What kind of shape was the property in, and what problems were you dealing with?
It probably wasn't the worst. Some of the appliances were starting to go. Carpet was bad. The fixtures were outdated. We needed to sell it with a realtor. We would have had to have done a lot of improvements to be able to put it on the market. Things were let go over probably the last 20 years.
Did listing with an agent feel like an option for you? And if it did, it sounds like it did not, but if it did or did not, why did it not feel like an option for you?
We really thought that was our only option. We actually had the house cleaned by a professional cleaner in hopes to get it ready for a realtor to come see it. We knew we'd have to do it as is, because we didn't have the time and energy to fix everything ourselves just to resell it. We were not looking forward to doing an as is with a realtor.
What worried you about a We Buy Houses for Cash company like ours? What were some concerns you had after we had first spoken, after David told you, hey, this guy's going to call you?
I think that it was a trust factor. You hear about companies that, buy houses or buy cars or whatever. You think that, one, it would be a low offer that wouldn't even be reasonable. Really just, there's so many scams out there. You have houses sitting there empty, somebody approaches, and so it was just, the trust wasn't there. And so, I put it off a little bit. It did help that the neighbor, you had worked with the neighbor, they were somewhat of a similar situation. So they said that they used you, and so that helped a lot. And then after our first phone call, it was no question.
When we made the offer to you, could you please, just give some insights on how the offer felt, and one, where it started as far as where we were at, what we ended up signing at, and if it ever changed from the point in which we signed into the point in which we closed?
The price never changed, because I thought it was a very fair offer. I expected it to be lower. Do I think if we had put in, if my husband and I had made updates and went through a realtor and did all this stuff, could we have gotten more money? We probably could have. We didn't want to do that. So we had an idea of, we knew it would be a little bit lower than selling with a realtor. When you came back, you went and took pictures and looked at the property, got on a call and made us an offer, and it was more than what we had expected. It was more than fair. We accepted there on the phone call.
What almost stopped you from moving forward to sell us your house?
When we heard the offer, done. And it was, that you had explained a little bit of the process of there wasn't a lot of effort from our standpoint to put into it. And when you went in and saw what I would call a bad condition house, we thought it was horrible. We wouldn't live there. You went in and said, it's not that bad. I think that made us feel better that you didn't see it as bad a condition as we did, and that you could fix it, right? So for us, we didn't even know how to go about fixing the house up.
Your thoughts, and you think back to like when we first met and first started communicating about the offer, what do you think was the biggest driving factor that made you decide to go with us versus the realtor or versus even another home buyer?
You were very personable. When we did communicate or we had questions, you were very responsive. You're very clear on all the expectations. You also didn't push us. It was, here's how it is, here's how it works. You guys take your time, make your decision. There was just no pressure. I think the trust there was starting to, you're somebody that we felt we could trust.
Was there anything that I said or did that made you feel like these guys are different from what I assume home buyers are, what I see online?
I think it's probably more that you explained everything in detail, the entire process, just really not pushy. You didn't push us at all on anything. When you wanted to go in to see the house, you were you were flexible on our time. I think it all goes back to you just weren't pushing. It felt like if we didn't make the decision, you'd respect that and you wouldn't call us again. I think it really comes down to that.
From the day we signed that contract, you said, yes, you got your parents to sign. Everyone's like on board. Let's do this. What actually happened from that day all the way to the closing process, which was today, yesterday, today we're finalized. So what was that process like from signing to today?
It was nice because I hardly had to do anything. After we signed, I chatted with Laura, who was just wonderful. I got her contact information. Actually, I think you had said I would work with, somebody in the title company. Laura did the in-between on that. And I think the very last day is when I talked to the title company. Laura went in between. There really wasn't much. There was a couple of pieces, documents that I needed to email. I sent them to Laura. She sent them on to the title company. And then it was really, I sat and waited a long time. It seemed like a long time until about 48 hours before the signing. That was just a couple of questions. I even followed up and said, is everything on track? It was. Even the signing, I had an option of, being in person. The notary would come to me, or I could do it online. I did it online, and that was so easy. I picked my time and reviewed the documents online, and then a notary came up and we signed, and it was all very easy. For my part, I didn't do much.
How fast did we close? What ended up being easier than you had initially expected?
The whole thing was easier. I think from when we started talking, it was only about maybe 4 weeks. I think you said you could have done it in 3. Like I said, the house had hail damage, and so we were waiting on repairs because we had already contracted to get those repairs done on the house. Really, it was on our end that we delayed. Yes, it was 4 weeks done.
What is the best part for you about being done with the house now?
It's a huge weight off our shoulders. Having a parent's house sitting there empty, I don't know if people realize how stressful it is, because one could think it's just a house sitting there and you really don't have to do much with it. It's so much more. It takes energy, effort, and worry. Having this done and as quickly, this has probably been the easiest part. Selling the house to you guys has been the easiest part of taking care of that house for over a year. Now it's just an extreme burden off of our shoulders. Definitely time to celebrate.
So how do you feel today compared to before we had spoke and before you had even knew about me or our company?
I would sell my own home. You guys, to avoid all the realtor stuff and going on. I feel great about you guys. I would definitely tell anybody who had the same similar situation that hands down to call you guys, because I think you're fair and very trustworthy. I would use you guys again with no question.
If someone in Kansas City is in the same spot that you were in and is maybe nervous about calling us or talking to us, what would be something that you would tell them?
I would tell them not to wait. Call you guys now, because it is more than worth it and fair price, and I think you guys would treat them right.
I just want to thank you for taking some time to do this. This was, 30 minutes out of your morning here, leading into the holidays. So definitely appreciate you taking some time to do this.
Head to iBuyKC.com, iBuyKC.com.